Good evening, folks. Welcome along to another episode of the Endless Celts Podcast. My name's obviously Ross, and I'm joined by two show regulars, Franny and Anthony. How are you doing?
Oh, good, mate. Glad to be back on. Just a bit recovered for quiz night, so I wasn't chatting all about all things league leading Celtic.
Yeah, man. And a special welcome to our guest, James Forrest, tonight for the CelticBlog. How are you doing, mate?
I'm glad, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Aye, glad to have you back on. Always welcome. So we'll get right into things. Obviously, start on the latest game, the Ross County game, which again for me it was another comfortable performance. Evening, Jed, back for his holiday. I hope he's nice and tanned. There's Pete Sec. So the Ross County game. We'll just come to yourself first, Anthony. For me, I thought we played really well in the game, totally controlled it from start to finish. It was never in any doubt the result, and just a perfect performance against what could have been a really tough opponent who is going really well in the league at the moment. But what was your sort of summary of the game?
Well, I must admit, mate, up until the red card, I thought it was much of an even Steven game, to be perfectly honest. That really killed it as a contest. But, you know, I'm only kidding. I'm ready
to cut you off there.
That first half was absolutely superb. I ended up being I took my wee boy, Jude, to the game on Saturday. And so it's always good when you get quite a few goals because it keeps him entertained as well. But he was absolutely loving it. We were never in our seats that first half, especially. We just blew them away. And like you say, County haven't been playing too badly recently. And also, the same as well, we remember what happened up in Dingwall when it was like, you know, very much the last second when we got the win. So I must admit, there was a wee bit of me that thought, you know, when we had the chance to go 6 clear against Hibs a couple of weeks ago, we slipped up. So I thought we can't let that happen again. But for the minute the first goal went in, you thought they're in the mood today. This is going to be a proper rollover. And all joking aside, fair play to the County keeper. Although it was 4-0, he had 3 or 4 really top class saves. It could have been a scoreline that would have been much more, would have reflected the game more rather than just a 4-0. Sometimes just can look pretty routine, but it was a mesmerising 4-0, it has to be said. And we'll obviously touch on the big man later on, but Giakoumakis was just sensational. Maeda was looking sharper. Callum McGregor's just absolutely phenomenal in the middle of the park again. And although the boys didn't have much to do at the back, the defence and Joe Hart just strolled it. I'm actually getting to the point now where I'm thinking Joe Hart shouldn't be collecting his wage because he's not had anything to do for weeks. But it's all good. It's all good. And hopefully we can just keep this forum going in post-international break as well.
Aye, I think you're bang on. Like, and you've sort of summarised the game pretty well there. Come to yourself, James. Just sort of obviously summarise the game as well. And it's plain to see that Giakoumakis was a top performer, but who else, in your opinion, with a kind of sort of top game?
Well, I think the team has started to play the kind of football they were playing just after the January window opened, when we looked like we could blow everybody away. I think the Livingston result took a lot of pressure off us in that regard, because I think a lot of people were viewing that as being the banana skin game. And now that we're over that, it just feels like everything's much calmer. And the performance was excellent at the weekend. I actually missed the game because I wasn't well, and so I had to sit and shout and ball at the telly for a change. I thought the whole team was excellent. It was good to see the midfield playing well again. I think Callum McGregor's been exceptional in the last 3 or 4 weeks. But Giakoumakis is obviously the man at the moment. He's the form guy. It was great to see him getting another hat-trick. Superb. His confidence must be sky high. And I think there's a legitimate question now whether you would drop him for Ibrox even if we had a fully fit squad. Mm-hmm. And that's a nice place for the manager to be in.
Aye, and I think that sort of speaks volumes of his performance. His performances with the fact that he's at the moment he's getting towards undroppable. It certainly is the central striker. But I mean, touching on his hat-trick, Franny, what did you think of the hat-trick and his like all-round performance in general?
His all-round performance was really good. Like I've been saying, his confidence, he must be flying. He scored obviously a hat-trick in his previous game, and then follows out with another hat-trick. I really like the second goal, just how the instinct to just adjust and direct it to the right-hand side away from where defenders were and stuff. And then the first goal is like Jota just hangs that cross up, and there was only one winner. Giakoumakis was winning that. Nobody was stopping him doing it. The penalty was much like the Livingston one that he missed. It was quite a lazy looking penalty. It's just the way he hit it, but obviously the keeper went the wrong way. But I totally get if we've got a fully fit team, I don't see how you can drop him that, especially going on his performance. His 60 minutes against the Rangers at Parkhead, it was brilliant that day. And like probably myself, I was a bit guilty judging Giakoumakis when he wasn't fit at the start of the season, but we weren't really aware of that until after the Alloa game when he said, "Judge me now, I'm fit now. Judge me now." And I'm sure it was me and Stephen done the podcast after that game. And I was like, well, if he can get 10 goals in all competitions, it'll contribute massively to the end of the season. But he's on 12 now. And he's potentially maybe got, I think 20 might be, I don't know if 20 is out of stretch, but you can see now, you can, like, why this guy was top goal scorer in the Dutch league and stuff. Like we said the other day, you don't score 26 goals regardless for a relegated team in any league if you're a bad striker. And I'm not saying I wrote him off, and I'm not saying I was always knew he was going to come good, but I think now when you're Giakoumakis, I think you can only judge for after Christmas really. The Alloa game, it's the previous 6 months before that. You can tell the guy just wasn't fit. He's just like Russell Bhoys said, he's just absolute chaos, and he just like in the nicest possible way. Not to downgrade him, so I think he's a lot more than that, but he causes havoc in the box. He's like a big bully in that. He just loves the fight, and the guy's just flying. And now I certainly wouldn't be dropping him anytime soon.
I agree with that, and I mean I think he's much more than just a big like arm ram. Aye. But I mean, I just want to say that like welcome along to everybody and stuff like that. But I'm going to do my best to try and keep up with the comments. But multitasking is no my forte, so apologies in advance. But moving on to like the sending off, Anthony. What was your thoughts on that? What do you feel it was a sending off? For me, I think. Sorry, for me, I think it was a sending off. I think there's absolutely no doubt about that. And like, there's guys like Halliday and stuff on Super Scoreboard last night try to say like that it wasn't a sending off and excessive force that doesn't always come into play and stuff like that. But I mean, he's took the ball, but he knew exactly what he was doing, and he was taking the man and the ball. But what about yourself? What did you think?
Well, I must admit, I was in the queue. I was just coming back from the queue at the food bit just as it happened, so I didn't see the incident straight away, and I didn't. Even the fans over in the North Stand didn't go sort of as crazy as you normally would. You would expect them to if it was, an absolute blatant sending off. And there was like a bit of a cry around the ground of when the red card was flashed. There was a bit of surprise. But as I was discussing with one of the boys sitting next to me, I don't know if it was the shock of, I can't believe he gave a red card there, or just the fact that the referee had actually finally got a decision right in Celtic's favour. So having seen it again, I mean, it's a red card for me, but no question. If he doesn't give a red in that instance, for me, Ross, it's just another one that you put in the column of shockers that the referees haven't got right this season. You take that on board. He did take the ball and stuff, but when you look at from where his studs are, from where he makes impact, there was obviously I'd heard or I'd read some of the comments that Andy Halliday, he's up there with the Chris Bhoys of this world, just utter clowns who can't even be the least bit, impartial. He was probably cheering him on when he watched it. And the fact that Tom Rogic had to go off injured after it can tell you as well that it was a bad one. So, yeah, red card for me all day long. And, the referee got it spot on.
Aye, I don't know how you can argue that. I take it you share the same sentiments, James.
Aye, and not only is it a red card, it's not even a necessary red card, because the guy commits a couple of fouls before it, including one that's almost identical to it, and gets away with it. And if he gets booked for one of them, he doesn't make that stupid lunge in the first place. It's another example of referees letting players away with murder against us. I mean, he's gave the red card eventually for an absolutely ridiculous and reckless challenge. But if he books a guy for one of the earlier ones, he doesn't have to do it.
Mm-hmm. Aye. Lanky's coming in there. I can see us scoring 9 goals against one of the top 6 before the end of the season. I mean, it's very possible, but keepers are having good games against us now. What about yourself, Randy? Do you think that's possible?
What, the 9-0? I think Saturday was a good chance at, I think, because they were 3-0 up after 20 odd minutes and they're down to 10 men. I think Saturday was a good chance. I mean, it would be good to see it. I don't really think it'll happen, because you've seen like games like Saturday when you go up 3-0, the team sort of not play within this, but they drop ever so slightly. I think they're keeping a wee bit in reserve in that just for the remaining games and stuff. So as much as I would like to see it, I honestly can't see it happening.
Aye. I mean, it would be good, but at the end of the day, at this stage of the season, happens every year, but it's 3 points. 1-0, 2-0. It's 3 points. Do you know what I mean? That's all that matters right now at this stage of the season. But I'm going to let you know that obviously we're sponsored by Manscaped again, so I'm going to have to go through the sort of wee and read it out. So just bear with me here. I'm not even going to pretend that I've memorised it. I'm just going to read it straight off the phone. There's got to be no eye contact.
You could start doing this again.
No, like the last time. You've made me fully aware of it now. So, this episode, the Endless Celts Podcast, is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and have engineered the ultimate groin and body trimmer by focusing on intelligent functionality and incredibly comfortable grooming experience. Their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0, has now launched all over Europe and features wireless charging, a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents, and comes with additional guards sized 1 to 4 to fine-tune your trim. And thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology, you can now feel confident shaving your balls. So join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code CELTS. That's CELTS at manscaped.com, and the link's in the description below. Well, thank God that's over.
Tell you what, son, Del Boy himself couldn't have done it better.
I'll tell you, there's some mighty big words in it. But anyway,
off the tongue, does it?
Demonstration, right?
What's that, James?
I say it's a matter of time before they ask for an on-air demonstration.
We'll get Anthony to do that, aye. The little ball cup. Anyway, moving swiftly on. So I want to move on to away from the game of sorts and move on to Big Julian. He's a guy that I rate, and I think had he not got the bad injury, we might not have seen Carter Vickers in this Celtic team. They might not have went for him. But now it's now at the stage where I don't know how Julian gets back into this team. And my question to you, Franny, is: do you think, it's probably depending on the Carter Vickers situation, but Do you think that he could be departing us in the summer? Or do you think there's still a place for him in the squad?
I would say there's still a place for him, but I don't think he's got to stay and be like doing the role he's doing now. Much like we've obviously said, you wouldn't change the back four at all, especially the Starfelt and Carter, because you don't change that at this stage of the season, considering their record as well. But if we're going into next season, say we've fingers crossed we've signed Carter Vickers, I think Julian may look to move on then, because again, why would you break up Carter Vickers and Starfelt? As much as I think Julian looks an Ange type player, like he's great on the ball, can pass it long, just everything about a modern day sort of a defender, I feel like. So for me, I think he would fit great into the way Ange wants to play. But the guy costs $7 million, probably on a decent enough wage, and he's at 29-30. If we send Carter Vickers, I honestly don't. Maybe Ange will maybe want rid of him to free up some wages to get somebody else in. I don't see him hanging around if he's got to be playing second fiddle. But he's a player I really rate because he's got a presence. He's for a scoring defender, he's actually pretty decent as well. So he has got attributes that I think would be beneficial. But it's one of the like you say. I think a lot's got to depend on Carter Vickers really.
Well, there's Ian McIntosh. He's saying don't split up the best defence in the league, and I mean, and then he's coming in again saying I think Celtic will want Julian off the wage bill. But I mean, I'm not saying right now split up that defence. That's just madness. You wouldn't do that at this stage of the season. But for me, if Carter Vickers doesn't stay, then there's definitely a place there for Julian. But it's all ifs and buts now. We just need to see what the summer brings. But what about yourself, James? What's your thoughts on Julian at the minute?
I don't know how long's he got left in his contract. Is it only a year, 2 years?
Unsure.
As you say, if Carter Vickers goes, then there's no way you can let Julian go as well.
No.
But I think Julian's a great squad player to have regardless. The question will be whether he wants to stay if he's not going to be guaranteed to play every week. But I fully fit Christopher Julian will challenge for a place in this team regardless of who else is on it, I think.
Absolutely, aye. I agree with that. What about yourself, Anthony?
It's a bit of a conundrum, to be honest, Ross, because I think of the three, and yet maybe even four if you include Stephen Welsh as well, I would put Carter Vickers at the top. I would say he's the best of the four. So it's a case of, and if we let's talk positive and let's say that he does sign on a permanent basis, you're left with the sort of who do you put alongside him? Now Starfelt and Julian actually have got different qualities. I think Julian is better. He's more of a goal threat for a start. He's obviously scored a few important goals for us. You obviously think of the ones in Europe to start with, and the winner against Rangers in the Cup. What he does have a tendency to do, though, is against the teams, let's be respectful, call them the bottom six clubs, when perhaps the strikers tend to get a little bit more physical and tend to be a bit more verbal. He has been known to get a bit over emotionally invested in the game, and that can cause him to make silly mistakes.
Yeah.
Whereas Starfelt can be prone to, but he's great on the ball, and he kind of strides over the pitch. Even alone that brief cameo he made against Raith Rovers, it just looked like he just slotted right back in like he'd never been away. You got to appreciate who we're playing, of course, but I still think he would do that against most teams in the SPL and against a lot of teams in Europe as well. Starfelt, on the other hand, can give you the bit of the jitters in a lot of games. Sometimes there is still the odd pass that goes astray and whatnot. Having said that, in the games where the nitty-gritty games, he'll put his head in where it needs to be. He's absolutely fearless. I mean, there's been some games this season where you'd think he'd rather get brain damage than have a ball than not win a header. So, like I say, I'm probably going off on a long thing to say, I don't know, to be honest. Personally, if we can, you would like to think with the monies that we would make, whether to win this league and then qualify for the Champions League, that the money would be there to keep all three of them. Time will tell on that front, but I just think it'd be a fantastic competition between them all. And I include Welsh in that as well, because I think he has come on leaps and bounds. He showed a lot of promise last year, but he was obviously thrown in at the deep end in a season that where anything could have went wrong, it did. He's obviously not featured as much this season for obvious reasons, but when he has, I think he's come in and done well as well. So you've got 4 top players there competing for 2 slots, all things going well. So, yeah, to sum up, yes, I would keep him if he wants to stay.
I think it's a no-brainer to keep. Were you got to say something there, James?
No, I liked what Elfin said in his comment there about if he's in his final year of his deal, would you get an offer that would be worth losing him for? I don't think you would. I think
that's a fair comment.
I know I was going to touch on that actually, but I totally agree with that as well. But I think it's a no-brainer to keep Julian. It's whether he wants to stay, but he's not going to want to stay, I don't think, and play the role that he's playing just now. But that's down to him then to knuckle down in the training, show the manager what he can do. I think he's probably doing that at the moment. But again, we go back to there's no way Ange is going to split that partnership up. But in the summer, in the pre-season, in the pre-season matches, if he shows that he's a better option than Starfelt, I'm sure that Ange will go with him. But and it's a great option to have. And again, it just shows the sort of strength and depth that our squad is beginning to get. And it's just good to see. But moving on, I'm trying to keep up with these comments, but they're coming in too quickly. I don't know who. I don't know if Joe Finley's talking about Julian or Starfelt on the decision making. If it's Starfelt, I sort of know what he's saying. But I think he defends his areas well and he wins his headers. And somebody else I don't know who it was, somebody else had said that they feel that Starfelt's actually played better than Julian in the last sort of 2-3 weeks. And no Julian, sorry, better than Carter Vickers. Lanky 67 it was, played better than Carter Vickers. And I don't think you can really argue with that. I think he's not put a foot wrong. He just looks awkward. I think we can all agree with that. But he's doing the right things now in a Celtic top. You can't complain. But moving on to we obviously touched on Giakoumakis at length, but going forward, obviously Kyogo's coming back into the fore. He's starting to get fit again. I'm not 100% sure when he's due back, but just for talking sake for the Rangers game, if he was fit, would you go Giakoumakis or would you bring Kyogo straight back into the fold? What's your thoughts on that, James?
Well, see, we've got 3 very different kinds of strikers in Celtic Park. We've got the big physical guy who can bully defenders and he's proved he's a goal scorer. We've got Kyogo, who I think is probably the closest to a Larson type player that we've had for ages. But if we want to play counter-attacking football, we've got Maeda, whose pace is just going to outstrip everybody who we come up against. I mean, Ange's now got a very, very potent box of tools, and you pick the best one for the job at hand. My old man thinks that Kyogo should start at Ibrox if he's even 75% fit, because they're absolutely scared shitless to him. But they look scared shitless to Giakoumakis to Celtic Park as well. And I don't know who the best bet there is. I know Ange was trying to find a way to play both of them in the same team at the start of the season, and that's maybe something that he's got in mind for Ibrox. I mean, if he did that, actually, with the way the team is settled down now, I don't think we know what to do. I don't think we know how to deal with both of them.
Aye.
Plays on left between Maeda, I think that might be an interesting idea.
Aye, well, I don't know. It's a tough one, but for me, just purely because of match fitness, I would probably go for Giakoumakis. If he had a run of games behind him, then it's a different story. But it's like you say, we've got all these options, and we've said in previous podcasts that Ange he's not actually got a best 11. He's picking 11 and playing the fixture. And this Rangers game at Ibrox, I actually like if Kyogo and him were both fully fit and had been playing a run of games, I don't know what one would be better for to play the fixture. But it's a tough one. What do you think, Franny?
I think for me, I think I'm going Giakoumakis at Ibrox, even if they're both fully fit. I just think the way he bullied them, and the way I think he was bullying them going forward in that game as well, I just think, like James said, they'd be shitting themselves. I think he's made for that fixture now. But it's like you say, it's not a bad option. Both of them fully fit, and obviously Maeda comes out of the equation as well, but he has looked a lot better out left of late. So I don't know if you could actually somehow get Maeda, Giakoumakis and Kyogo as the front three. I think you lost a bit of Kyogo when you put him out wide, but it's maybe some way to look at it. I don't know.
Really?
But it's for me, I would have to go Giakoumakis.
I mean, I can't disagree with that. I was going to say something. It was just a total. I was trying to read the comments, and then I was trying to think what I was going to say, and it just went. What self-praise? In the long run, I don't know about Starfield. He's very proactive going into challenges and gets exposed by better teams. I kind of know what he's saying there. But aye, the Kyogo, that's what I was going to say. So I've regained my composure. The Kyogo and Giakoumakis one, right? For me, I think it's a bit similar to your sort of Rogic O'Reilly quandary, and that for me, maybe going forward, Rogic and O'Reilly will prove us wrong. But at the minute, it looks like the least effective partnership or the least effective coupling up in that midfield three. And I think for me, it's similar in the front three, whereas I think you lose a bit of Kyogo playing him out wide. I think he's better through the middle. So, and obviously Giakoumakis is never going to be played on either side of the front three. So for me, it's one or the other. And again, it's to play the fixture. What do you think on that, Anthony?
Yeah, pretty much what the boys are saying, Ross. For me, I would start Giakoumakis 100%. I think where he not perhaps in the best of form himself, then you maybe it raises that question gets raised in a different way. But I mean, he scored 2 hat-tricks in the last 3 games in league for him. He scored 2 up at Tannadice as well in the cup. He's absolutely banging for him. He's match fit. Although he didn't get on the score sheet in the 3-0 game at Parkhead, he was absolutely magnificent that night. He bullied the Rangers defence the full game, and it was his. And of course, Alan McGregor had an Alan McGregor game, and that's what prevented him from getting on the score sheet. But it was the off the ball movement, which but ironically we praised Kyogo so much for. Giakoumakis' off the ball movement that night that allowed the likes of Hatate to get into space was absolutely superb. And I think it would really disrupt morale or his morale for me if at the first possible opportunity he was dropped for Kyogo, who's not kicked a ball since Boxing Day. I think if you have him bang on form, ready to go, ready to bully them in their own patch, you start with him. But if possible, if he's even as James, if he's 75-80% fit, bring him on, because that guy, or even at that kind of sharpness, is more than capable of changing a game, like we've seen in the cup final. So it's a brilliant sort of conundrum to have. But I think for me, you got to go with the guy that's in form. There was this question in similar fashion, believe it or not, was raised a few years ago, and it was the game when we lost to Rangers just after Christmas, and it was a year that we had signed Edward. So Edward was a £9 million signing. Started the season great, but he got injured about November time. And of all the people that came bang into form that day, that in that period was Mikey Johnston, and Mikey Johnston was banging for him, banging them in right, left and centre, turning defenders inside and out. And it was coming up to the game at Ibrox. And they were sort of saying, "Oh well, you've got to who do you play between the two?" Now that's the difference in quality. With the greatest of respect to Mikey, he's not at that level yet, and I think he did start. I think Brendan Rodgers started with Mikey Johnson that day, and he never picked a ball. Giakoumakis is a far, more of a physical specimen as well. For me, he's not raw. He's ready to go, and for me, it's the old saying: if something's not broke, then you don't need to try and fix it. So I'd start with the big man and have Kyogo off the bench later in the game.
Aye, I mean, for me, that's probably what I would do as well. But it's as I say, it's a good problem to have. And like for me, like I've said, I don't think it's one or the other. What about yourself, Rand? Do you think it's one or the other? Do you think you can shoehorn them into playing the same team at any point?
I dare say there will be games where you can maybe try and play two up top, or actually, hopefully we're not actually going to be chasing a goal for any of the games in the season, but you might want to go change up and go a bit two up top. But I'm with you, Ross. It's one or the other, and we've, like we said, we try to shoehorn them in it, and seems kind of fixed on this 4-3-3. So I don't see how you do shoehorn them in unless you're putting it Kyle Boy wide, which we all don't want.
Aye. I think most of the comments, people are in agreement that they would go with Giakoumakis for the game at Ibrox, and like Anthony says, it would really be a kick in the teeth for the guy if he was dropped at the first sign of Kyogo being back, or even like not even had a game yet. Do you know what I mean? Just thrown straight back into the fold, and probably, well, I don't know if it's the biggest game of the season, but it's certainly one of the biggest games of the season. But it's, again, time will tell. But moving on to sort of, obviously we've hit this international break now. We've got a lot of guys away. Maeda and Rogic haven't made the trip, which is a bonus. I think Maeda, it's possible that it's only tiredness with him, that he's been omitted. But Rogic has obviously picked up that injury, so we hope that this 2-week layoff allows him the recovery time that's needed. Obviously, we've got a few under 21 guys away: Johnny Kenny, Oluwawemi, and we've got our Great Dane, Matt O'Reilly. Didn't think I would call him a Great Dane, but there you go.
Such a Danish name, isn't it?
Aye, and we've got Abada and Welshaw away with their under 21s, and then we've got our big players: McGregor, Taylor, Beaton, Giakoumakis, Juranovic, Hatate, and Starfelt, who's obviously been called up to the Sweden squad. I think that speaks volumes for what we've been sort of touching on. But I mean, I think it goes without saying, James, that we hope that all of them come back unscathed and play as little minutes as possible.
Yeah, definitely. The one thing that we'll not get anyway is this manager pulling players in international teams without a good reason. That's why when Maeda pulls out and Rogic pulls out, no matter what the Sevconuts might want to tell themselves, this isn't because we're running scared in anything or for anything like that. This manager believes in international football, and he believes that players should want to represent their country, and he's not withstanding anybody's way. In fact, I've never heard a Celtic manager so encouraging about players going and playing international games. So, I mean, I just want them all to come back in one piece.
Aye. But it's like Jed said in the comments there, look at the amount of players that we've got away now representing their country. It's great, and it just speaks volumes for how the team is performing at the minute. But obviously, I'm assuming that you echo James's sentiments on all these players that are away, Anthony.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we were hoping that this was going to be the week that we had a sort of week of destiny for Scotland, and we're hoping that we would be looking forward to going off to a World Cup at the end of the year on top of all the success that Celtic have been having. But obviously, circumstances have prevented that from happening. I hope that I like Steve Clark. Don't get me wrong, but I hope that there's a bit of common sense applied now to the likes of Callum McGregor. I know Callum McGregor will be desperate to play every minute of every game. That's just the type of player that he is. But there is absolutely no way that he should be featuring he shouldn't be playing 180 minutes the next couple of games for Scotland, because they are, they aren't the playoffs now. It's they are friendlies, and I would argue they're not even friendlies at the time of year when Clark can look at trying to change his system or anything like that. Steve Clark will know by now how he's going to line up when it is the World Cup playoff fixtures, I would imagine. And this is maybe just a slight experiment to see what he can move about with. But I don't think that you can, with any justification, have the likes of Callum McGregor playing 180 minutes of football. So hopefully a bit of common sense can be applied there, and hopefully as well. I mean, I appreciate that for a lot of the games, the other nations, they are, the playoffs, so you have to expect that they are going to play a lot of them. But the way that this team's so fit now and raring to go, and they're on that kind of crest of a wave momentum-wise, that they'll just see it as another game and then they'll be back. I reckon they'll be raring to go. If there's a game to come back to after you're tired for an international break, it's over to Mordor and beat them on their own match. Set a nice wee cushion between us and them in the league. So even if all of them play every single minute, I still think they'll all be raring to go a week on Sunday.
I mean, if you can't get yourself up for a week on Sunday, there's no point in you being at Celtic, really, especially with what's at stake. But I mean, for that list, guys away, there was one omission, Franny, and that's Anthony Ralston. Were you surprised at him not being included in the squad this time around?
Oh, I was, but I suppose, like we've been talking, selfishly, I'm glad he's not in the team, because it's one less guy we've got to worry about not getting injured. But like Stephen O'Donnell's not really kicking a ball for. He's still at Motherwell, isn't he? Or is he?
I think he's still at Motherwell. No, is it? No, I think it's Motherwell. I don't know.
No.
I thought that.
Then Patterson he's played 45 minutes against Boreham Wood and got hooked at half time, and Ralston kind of got ahead of that. So, I mean, I know we were meant to obviously be playing Ukraine and stuff, but this team wasn't announced. So I would have understood if we were playing Ukraine and the team we picked was the team we picked, because he's got to kind of go with the tried and trusted that got him into that position. I could understand his argument in that sense, but it's a couple of friendlies, and you've got I don't really know Tavernier's numbers, but I think goal contributions, if he's no top, he's got to at least be second Ralston and goal contributions this season. So how you can't pick that in the Scottish national team, I honestly don't know. But selfishly, I'm glad, because it's one less player we need to worry about.
Aye. I mean, to be fair, I do really rate Patterson. I think any time he's played for Scotland, he's been excellent. But I was going to make the case there that you have to pick the guys that are playing for their club, but Ralston's not playing. He's not playing week in, week out. So that sort of steps in that point. But it's a tough one. I feel for Patterson, because he's went down there and he's not getting a look in for whatever reason. But I think for all the world, if it was 16 million, I think through time, I think he'll repay that back to Everton. I think he will be a player that plays in their squad. But I think Ralston must be very disheartened when you look at it. Like when I think it was maybe Anthony had said there, these aren't the qualifiers now. If you want to bring guys in to sort of test the water, see how then surely Ralston's one of the guys, and he's not even looked at him. It's a bizarre decision, but again, like you say, it's one that we welcome at this stage of the season. And I think it goes without saying, I hope Scotland do well in the friendlies. We were hoping that it was going to be the qualifiers, but circumstances didn't allow that, and it's absolutely right that they didn't go ahead. Would you agree with that, James? That obviously the game shouldn't have went ahead, and we're glad.
Yeah. But if I can touch on Ralston for a wee minute,
aye.
I think that I think Ralston can afford to do what he's done at Celtic. I think he can afford to be patient, because I don't think that there is a player in Scotland who showed more character than Ralston did this season, because that guy had spent the entire summer reading about how he was surplus to requirements, and every single day that he picked up the newspaper, he'd be replaced by this player, and they're looking at that player, and they're looking at, and all he did was just dug in, worked harder, and got an Andrew's team. I think when he gets in the Scotland side, he'll cement a place in it, and he'll be there for years. So if he's patient, he'll get there.
Aye, I couldn't agree more on that. He's got time on his side. I'm just trying. What's Joe Finlay? Anthony's right. No beating about the Scotland friendly with Poland is a lot of pish. Unless Holy Goalie is over at Endless Celts to approach him for interview. Well, by the way, let's get the wheels in motion. The Holy Goalie on the Endless Celts podcast.
Absolutely.
John, over to you, John. I'm going to move on to, it's just for a wee bit of fun. I know it's a bit soon and stuff like that, but I'm sort of want to maybe touch on like a preferred starting 11 for the game at Ibrox pre the friendlies. Obviously, there could be injuries between now and then. We hope not, but just like give me what your starting 11 would be for that game right now, Anthony.
Okay, doc, put me on the spot there, mate. So the back four just picks itself. Obviously all going well that everybody's fit. The usual keeper in back four. McGregor, obviously. And this is where I'm going to say Hatate. And I'm going to say O'Reilly. Purely for the fact I think Rogic coming on. At this moment, we don't know how fit he's going to be with that niggle. So I'd start O'Reilly, but I'd bring Rogic on for him later in the game, obviously. And then front three of Giakoumakis. I would go Jota on the left and Abada to start on the right.
Right.
So,
I mean, you can't really argue with that. Again, we've got so many options. Franny, what about yourself?
I'm much to say. Obviously, there's no point talking about the back four. That's picking itself.
Julian,
aye, Julian. for Carter Vickers, of course. I think like a couple of weeks after the Livingston game, I would have probably put Beaton in there, but I think Hatate's kind of finding a bit of form again. So I think I would have McGregor, Hatate, but I would start Rogic. I just feel he's getting back to. I feel like I can just see a big performance for him at Ibrox once again. He likes that fixture, and the front three I would keep it the same as Saturday's front three. I would take my head out on the left, Giakoumakis and Jota through on the right. I think that would be my front three if everybody's fit.
Mm-hmm. Again,
I've not got many options.
Exactly.
What's that, Anthony?
Just like we were just saying there, the amount of options we've got. I mean, like you say, you could swap that front three for a whole different set of players, and it'd still be equally as potent. So it's a good headache for Ange Postecoglou to have.
Aye, definitely. What about yourself, James?
Hart and goal, Ralston on the right, Carter Vickers and Starfield, Juranovic on the left, McGregor, Hatate and O'Reilly, Kyogo if fit on the left, Giakoumakis in the middle and Abada on the right.
Few interesting ones there. Few interesting ones there.
Midfield. The three-man midfield was so exceptional against them, I wouldn't touch it.
Aye.
We tore them apart at Celtic Park.
Aye, that's a fair comment. The interesting one there is, for me, is obviously you've went with Juranovic out on the left. Are you a fan of Taylor?
I actually am, but I think Ralston and Juranovic is very hard to choose between the two of them at right back for certain games, and I wouldn't have Juranovic out of the team right now. It's the only way to go. But definitely adequate on the left for certain games, but not this one.
Aye. I mean, I sort of know where you're coming from, because there's been a number of games. Obviously, we pick try and predict our starting 11 each episode, and a lot of the away games, a lot of us have plumped for Ralston over Juranovic, and I don't know if it's because he's more of a physical presence. He's up for that battle, so I can't disagree with that. Again, if it happened, I would be more than happy. And it's like most choices that Ange makes, and it's not just because it's Ange. Whatever player he puts in there, they all seem up to the job. They all know their jobs, and that's the good thing about this Celtic team at the moment. And for me, I would go with Hart. I was going Juranovic, but I'm sort of on the bar now, just with you mentioning Ralston, and I've sort of made points towards it. But I've got Juranovic written down, Carter Vickers, Starfelt, and Taylor. For me, if Ralston starts, then Juranovic is out of the team, because I play Taylor on the left of that back four every single time. But like you say, I want Juranovic in the team as well. So I think he just shades it for me over Ralston. The midfield three, I would probably go McGregor, Hatate, and Rogic if he's fit. But if he's no fit, then I would probably move McGregor up and play Beaton. Just to keep that bit of experience in there, and try and win that midfield battle. Just protects the back four as well. And then I'm in agreement with Franny. I would go Maeda on the left, Jota on the right, and Giakoumakis through the middle. I think that Maeda's...
It's excellent. I can't remember the last time we went to Ibrox when there wasn't a starting 11 that always thought that's the strongest team.
Aye.
There's 4 different teams in fact here, isn't it?
I know. That just, like you say, that just shows you the strength. I don't know if many guys are in the comments, but get involved, guys, and put what your starting 11 would be. I meant to say that at the start, so probably a wee bit late now. But if you are quick at time, get it in there. But aye, I mean, for me at the moment, Maeda, he's certainly getting towards that realm of being undroppable as well. And I think he's found his best position in a Celtic jersey out on that left-hand side. Like we've touched upon before, I think facing up, he's a lot better than picking the ball up with his back to goal. But he was doing a lot of the time through the middle. What's getting said in these comments here? Ralston uses controlled aggression to a T. Rarely gets but
well, that's true, by the way.
That is, aye. Just try to catch up with somebody. Juranovic had Kent in his back pocket in the last game. Jed says I can't disagree with that. Brown Warrior, can you imagine that place if we get a couple of early goals? Oh, they'll crumble. The fans will flip.
Aye.
The fighter oil will escape.
Aye, the way things are there now.
There right now.
Other propaganda.
Yeah.
Aye, I think. Well, if Celtic get an early goal there, I think the fans will turn on them.
Oh,
big time. And if we do get an early goal, it's like you say, Franny, it's going to be interesting. I know. See, to be fair to Rangers, though, in Europe, I've seen some of their games at Ibrox, and they have done well. They certainly done well against. Once they get their tails up and they get in front, the fans get right behind them. So I think Celtic have to nullify that early doors, and I think they can. Just the way they start games, I think Celtic will spook Rangers if they get that early goal, like they did in the game at Parkhead, James. I think that's the way to go. Would you agree?
I definitely start on the front foot, try and score early, because this is where they're giving us 700 tickets and all that and filling the stadium with their own fans. This is where it works against them, because if we do score early and the mood gets ugly over there, then that's excellent for us, because we'll just run over them.
Aye, like we did in the game at Parkhead. It's just come out. And by the way, there's probably no a lot between the teams, Anthony, but I think Celtic they probably edge it now, and with the options they've got going forward and the way Rangers have been defending recently, even in Europe, that game against Red Star Belgrade, if they defend like that, for me, I think Celtic exploit them and tear them to shreds.
Yeah.
Certainly, we're more than capable of doing it, Ross. Absolutely. You even look at the first game at the start of the season, brand new. It was the very beginning of the rebuild. I thought we actually played really well that day. We obviously so frustrating. We lost the goal for the set play, but then we had, you think Edward buries that one. 5 yards out. Kyogo and Christie both had great chances in the latter stages as well. So even then, the signs were there that we were going in the right direction, and it all came to a head that night in February where we absolutely blew them away. Similar to this weekend, 3-0 does not give a valid indication of the game that night. We were outstanding in that game. It could have been 5 or 6 were it not for Alan McGregor having a typical Alan McGregor performance. But we're more than capable of doing it. Like you say, you've got to be wary of them in the sense that, their ground can just be as raucous as ours when they're in form. Behind the scenes, they're in nowhere near as good shape as us on and off the park in terms of morale, whatnot. Not that you'll read much about that in the media, but we're in a good place. So the way I see it, just go and show how good a place we're in.
Aye, I couldn't agree more to that. I think going into this game, Franny, I think even though it's at Ibrox, I think you've got to make Celtic favourites, and I'm really, really confident going into the game. What about yourself?
Much like you, it will be a tricky. Well, it's got the potential to be a tricky game. It's never easy going to Ibrox, but I think without, obviously the pressure on Celtic, but the bigger pressure I believe is on Rangers, because I feel they have to win that game. I think if we come away with, obviously there's no way we've got to get a 15-goal turnaround, so we've got to be top of the league regardless of that result, even if they win. Obviously if they win it, might give them a wee kick on at the end of the season, but they'll go into that game knowing regardless of the result, they will still be second in the league. So it's a game they must win. If we get a draw, it puts us in a good position. If we get a win, I just don't see how we lost that league for that position. Mm-hmm. And it's like you just said, if we can get off to a quick start, I think that place, the fans could quickly turn. And if we take up the 700 tickets, it could be a nice wee day out for them.
Mm-hmm. I'm just reading, somebody's put their team in there. It wasn't. Oh, we've got Craven Moorcock. I mean, that's something, that is it? No,
we're down under, no less.
We've got Ricky coming in here. That's another different team again. Joe Hart, Juranovic, Taylor. That midfield three's a bit different. Giakoumakis Back and O'Reilly. Again, it could work. But interesting. But another different team. It just shows you, again, we go back to the options that we've got. And for me, this is the most confident I've been going into playing them at Ibrox since the last time that when COVID first started, and it was the last set of games we were due to play them and it got cancelled. That's the most confident, because we were going into that game, they were in absolute disarray. We would have tore them to shreds that day, and obviously there was no more football played that season, and we won 9 in a row. But I don't think, regardless, I think we'd have pummeled them at Ibrox that day and went on to win the league at a canter. Hopefully we do it this time around and really put them to the sword. But obviously you want to put them to the sword, but I mean, if we win 1-0, you take that as well. And a lot of people are talking about, like, again, you'd be happy with a point. I get that, but for me, I think we've got more than enough to win that game. And obviously, it depends how the game pans out, whether you'd be happy with a point. But right now, looking at it, I'm not at a point. I want to go there and win, because I think were more than capable and were the better team. But
well, I think if
moving
you go
on,
there and win as well, Ross, it's
what's that, Franny?
If you go there and win, it's shown the game at Parkhead wasn't a fluke. It's maybe it's shown that you've turned the table, that you have got their number again, that you've got the beating them, and it's psychologically it could be big for us.
I think that there's no way that you could say anyway that, not that I'm disagreeing with you, Franny, but there's no way you could say that game at Parkhead was a fluke.
No.
It was too much of a gap. It was an absolute trouncing. Celtic were magnificent that night, and the game was watched far and wide because it was a night game, and everybody seen us destroying them that night, and nobody can deny it. But moving on to this, you've sort of touched on it a wee bit there. This ticket allocation thing. James, I read your piece in it yesterday. Thought it was brilliant. I couldn't agree any more with it, and I'm going to give you the floor because although I agree with it, I'm sure you can articulate it a bit better than me.
I mean, this whole thing's a fiasco now, and it's a fiasco that they made in their house, and their fans aren't dealing with it any better than ours. A lot of their fans who were in favour of this idea, when it sounded good 3 years ago, are not quite as in favour of it any longer. Some of them think that the game would have been different. For example, at Celtic Park, had they had 5,000 or whatever number of fans in it, I don't think it would have been any different. But they believe that they've lost an edge in that game. There's opinion of theirs quite divided on it. I'm actually surprised at that. But the lunatic fringe is definitely in charge of affairs as far as it goes, and they don't want us in their house. The same as a lot of their fans don't want them in ours. And this isn't going to change. Their board's not going to shift one bit. They're not going to move 1 millimetre. Especially at this moment in time where they really can't move 1 millimetre because there's already open warfare between them and their fans. So I think this is something we're just going to have to suck up and get used to. I mean, there were some people today suggesting that we should send the 700 back and not take them. But if we do that, they'll take the 700 for Celtic Park and they'll be at Celtic Park come what may. And all we're doing is shooting ourselves in the foot.
I agree.
We've got a big away support that deserves to get a chance to go and see his team, whether it's 7,000 or whether it's 700. And I don't think we can deprive the team of that support at Ibrox anyway. If they think that 700 of your fans won't make a lot of noise, they're kidding themselves on, especially if they lose the early goal and the atmosphere and the rest of the grounds. We'll show them what noise 700 fans can make. So I think we take the tickets and we go there and we 700 guys who go there and have a party and celebrate.
100%. 100% agree with that.
Always 700 fans left in the ground by the time it ends.
Aye, I mean, I 100% agree with that. It's like you say, that we deserve, if that, their only gain is that because they have to. But
yeah.
Take it, because that's what we're allowed. That's what they're giving us. Just take it and have that support there for the players, because it'll make all the difference. Just that 700, just having that noise, knowing that the fans are behind you. I know that they would know that anyway, the players, but just having that wee bit of atmosphere and that at the back of you just pushes you on that wee bit more again, because it's been proven for me. And when fans weren't allowed in, look at what happened to our team. We absolutely capitulated. And don't be wrong, it wasn't purely because of that, but it was certainly a big reason. And if we can get one fan in, or 700 fans, take the allocation and run with it, and just put them to the sword, hopefully. What about yourself, Franny? What's your thoughts on that?
I would take the 700. It's just, it's like James said, they've totally chucked the toys at the pram. That Edward goal, the 3-2 game, absolutely destroyed them, and it has came a wee bit tit for tat. I have said in the past that I would like Celtic to be the bigger man, so to speak, and give them their full allocation, but I don't think it would get reciprocated. I mean, Stuart Robertson's came out and actually said that he can't see that allocation anytime soon. Obviously, a lot of that is down to due to COVID. Obviously, the regulations are gone now, but at the time you were allowed to sell. Away fans weren't allowed in, so it gave teams, and Celtic will be in the same position, it gave them a chance to sell more season tickets, essentially, which gave them guaranteed extra revenue. So I appreciate it's hard to move some fans. There might not be 8,000 fans to give, but they can't say there's about 2,700 fans come in for each European game, so there's there is a decent allocation that you can allow for Celtic there. So these fans that apparently can't get moved for this game isn't an issue for getting moved for European games. So there is an allocation there to give more away fans for this game, but Rangers have tried to sort of give it like they've put out the olive branch with a 700 when we all know it's the very bare minimum they can give. If they could give less, they would, but the minimum they need to give is 700, and that's why they've done it. And they're running with the tagline that they can't move season ticket holders. Their fans, like everything else, seem to be eating it up, but seem to ignore the fact that every other Thursday night there's nearly 3,000 fans for a different team there.
Aye, their fans eat everything up when it suits their narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually sad for me that we've got to this stage where they started it, and it's now looking like they're ending it, and they're by far from ending it. They're just doing what they have to do. But I'll give yourself, Anthony, the last word on this.
Aye, thanks, mate. Pretty much what the guys have said. I mean, we know why it started, because we dominated there 4 times in a row under Brendan, and their fury was reaching boiling point, and that's it. There's no other reason why. And the minute that they reduced their allocation, I'm a big believer in treating people how you're treated. If that's the way they're doing it, and Celtic made it quite clear that the same would be given back, because as James has alluded to in his articles, relationship between the two sides is absolute rock bottom now. It's non-existent. It is less than formal, to put it politely. I was at the 3-0 game, and it was absolutely brilliant atmosphere that night without them in there. Equally, I've been there when in front of all 7,500 of them when we've been scudding them 5-1 as well, and it's equally just as enjoyable. So I'm sort of kind of agnostic on should we let them in, should we not. I suppose for the neutral supporters and for Sky Sports and stuff, it does make it more of a spectacle, and that's another thing that they moan about as well. The fact that we get the full stand behind the goals. They are tucked away in the corner, sort of out of sight of the cameras. But I appreciate that numbers has never really been their strong point. But it's tougher to get 7,500 into a 50,000 seat stadium than it does a 60,000 seat stadium. There's more room to manoeuvre, and literally. But it is what it is. We'll take the 700. We'll scud them. We'll go 6 points clear, and we'll get absolutely rat-arsed on your bevy off the perfect pint machine. Can't wait, man. It's going to be some weekend.
Aye, that's right. I forgot I'm hosting, aren't I? Hosting the night, hosting the game. Just the hostess for the most.
Just call you Michael Parkins.
Aye, I don't know about that right enough. I don't think he stuttered his way through an episode as much as I have. But I'm trying to catch up with the comments again. I think a lot of the guys are, some of them are in agreement with us, and some of them are obviously saying don't take. I think it was Brown Warrior. I think he said don't take the allocation. Aye, well there you go. Don't take the allocation. Gub them with no support. Shove it right up them. I sort of get what he's saying there, but for me, just. It's sort of tit for tat if you don't take the allocation. Just take it and support the team. That's what it's all about. Supporting the team.
We've been on the right side of this argument the full way, mate. So let's just keep that going. As I say, as you say, it's them that started this whole childish affair because they couldn't stomach seeing us dominate them on their own ground. We've been on the right side of the argument ever since. Just keep doing what we do best.
Aye, I totally agree with that. And that sort of that just sort of brings the show to an end. But I'd just like to say, thank everybody in the comments and apologise because I've not got through them all. I've tried my best, but try to listen to the guys, try to put a wee bit in myself. It's no easy. Well, maybe through time we'll get used to it, but we're just sort of feeling our way into this live stuff, and this is my first go at the live hosting. Do you think I've done all right? Be gentle.
You've done fantastic, Des.
days.
I mean, I'm choosing never to host, so I'm in comment.
Aye, you're not allowed to say nothing.
Nah.
Nah, but have you enjoyed this one, guys?
Absolute pleasure, mate.
Absolutely brilliant.
It's
It's
been
been
good,
great having James back on as well. Obviously, hopefully it
Aye.
won't be the same length of time before we have you back on, mate. But it's always a pleasure reading your articles and having your insight on here as well. So good to hear from you again.
I really enjoy having you on this, James. I really agree with a lot of stuff you say, and you articulate it really well. And I like reading all your columns and stuff in the blog. I think it's top class, and it fills up my day just nicely. But I'd like to thank everybody in the comments and that. There's Jed Ross and you, Lorraine Kelly. Thanks, Jed. But thanks everybody for the comments and getting involved. We really appreciate your support every single week, twice a week. The regular guys, there's Martin K. A lot of the same names are coming up, and we're getting a sort of wee Alistair Jack as well. All the same guys, great guys, and we really appreciate you all. And if you are new to the show tonight and you haven't subscribed, then subscribe and just hit the wee bell. And just honestly, we love it, man. We love doing this, and we really appreciate you. And I'm not going to try and finish it on Stephen's thing, but I'll just say thanks again. Keep it Celtic. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.